The next topic we're going to discuss is using articles correctly. As you recall, there are three articles: a, an, and the. A and an are indefinite articles, which means they do not refer to a specific noun, and the is a definite article because it refers to a known or specific noun. And also recall that a and an are only used before singular nouns. They're not used for plurals. Now, I recognize that articles are a difficult part of the English language, especially for those of you who grew up speaking a different language and you learned English later. It's beyond the scope of my course to go into all of the rules. There are quite a few rules about using articles. But I do want to emphasize that it is important to use them correctly because it changes the meaning of sentences sometimes. And even if it doesn't change the meaning of sentences, it gives a bad impression to reviewers if your articles are not being used properly. And they might give you a hard time, which is really not fair, but that's the way it is. So let's look at some examples of how to use articles and how not to use articles. So we have three example sentences here. Stresses can be present in combinations such as the simultaneous heat and drought. The original sentence had the article the, but it shouldn't be there. So we should just say such as simultaneous heat and drought. These nouns, the way this sentence is structured, they don't require an article. In the second example, condensin 2 also localizes to chromosome axes during the early prophase and may play a primary role in the formation of the chromosome scaffold. So the authors had an extra the in the first line there during the early prophase. So you don't need the article for early prophase. But they were missing the second article, the formation of the chromosome scaffold. So we do need an article in front of formation. The third example is shown here. The formation of lakes is an evidence of the abundant geological activity that constantly shapes and reshapes the physical structure of the earth. We should not use an article for evidence. So if we did need an article, an is the correct one. However, evidence is the kind of noun that does not require an article because it's uncountable. So the formation of lakes is evidence, not an evidence. You can't have multiple evidences. So we don't need that singular article. And then in terms of earth, this one is a little bit tricky because it is true that proper nouns like earth don't require articles. However, in the English language, we typically refer to certain things with articles, like the earth and the University of Nebraska. By the rules, it shouldn't require an article. We tend to do that anyway. And if you leave out the article, it doesn't sound right to the ear. And so we need to include that article for things like the earth.